Hold on.
Oh, okay.
We're live.
All right. Buonasera. Welcome to Spaghetti and Baseballs, a special edition of Father's Day, brought to you by the Italian American Baseball Foundation. I am your co-host, Natalie Spedolari, alongside the one and only Chris Colabello.
What's up, everybody? Hi, Natalie.
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. We went 2 weeks without doing a show, so
We did, but you know what? We went 2 weeks, and here we are, prime time Thursday night.
Yeah, episode 3. We're moving into prime time. Our ratings were so high at 2 p.m. that they wanted to match us up with all of us.
Exactly. We're the new Friday night special. It's Thursdays.
Yes.
Do it on Thursday.
Yeah, I heard that we're the #1 rated web podcast about baseball that's had 3 different types of guests in their first 3 shows of all time. We went 2 coaches in one. Had 1 guest on the first one, and now this is going to be another. Like they're putting all the difficult stuff in front of us. We have 2 guests again, father son this time.
I know. I'm really excited about this one. This one because New York, born and bred, bring close to home. So I'm really excited for this. We got a lot to talk about. So should we get started?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to introduce our 2 guests as is customary now. Obviously, big shout out to the IABF. Everybody sees the logo. IABF, we love you. We're doing this all for you. I think deep in our hearts. So we brought 2 more paisans on. We're 5 for 5 in paisans. So the guests today are father-son, both former professional baseball players. We'll introduce the first one. They're both from the same town because they are dad and son. So the younger, Brown University, an Ivy Leaguer, love that. 2012 second team All Ivy League. He was actually drafted in 2010 by the New York Mets, but did not sign with an Ivy League school, which makes him significantly smarter than his father, I think.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
He then was drafted by the Braves in the 2014 draft, and later played with the White Sox and the Mets. Him and I have something in common. We're both position players that were sons of left-handed pitchers. So he's already near and dear to my heart. Met him a few times already. Glad to have him on. And I have one really cool stat about him, and I'll tell you why it's important later. He's got over 1,000 innings played defensively at what I call real positions. He has 12 career errors. I'd like to welcome John James, or JJ Franco, not to be mistaken with the actor, although he is more handsome. Hi, JJ.
Yes, welcome.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Natalie. Thanks for having me. Not to be confused with James Franco. I don't know if you recall the old Michael Jordan ESPN commercial. That would be a tough name to have right now. But I always joke that I wouldn't have a tough time grabbing like a dinner reservation if I just said James Franco was coming.
Well, you are far more attractive. No.
There's no question.
It is what it is. That kind of gives away who our other guest is. So I have to introduce him, and I have a couple things that I need to talk about him. Obviously, he's from Brooklyn, New York, went to Lafayette High School, St. John's University. Boring. I'm from New York, whatever. Drafted in the 5th round by the Dodgers, made his Major League debut for the Cincinnati Reds in 1984. 6 years with the Reds, 15 with the New York Mets, 1 year with the Astros, 4-time All-Star, 2.89 career ERA, 424 career saves, which I believe is 4th all-time, led the National League in saves 3 times, 1988, 1990, 94. Here are my favorite stats about your dad. He's the only player to ever have 2 seasons where he hit .333 and finished his career under 100 batting. He holds the Major League record for fewest caught stealings in a 20-plus year career, which is really cool because he had no stolen base attempts, so he never got caught stealing. And this is where your stat comes into play. 11 career errors, and I think the number of innings is like around 1,192. So he made 1 less error than you did in his career, and he did it over, playing pitcher, which is not even a real position. In 1988, he finished 9th in the National League in base out runs saved. I bet nobody knew that. The acronym for that stat is RE24. With 18.49. I don't know what an RE24 is, but nice job. in 2 2/3 innings, pitching in the 4th and 5th inning in his career. He has a 0 ERA, so he should have requested the 4th and 5th inning more. And he's also tied for the lowest career ERA in the Tokyo Dome, which is nasty. He has a 0 career ERA at the Tokyo Dome. I don't even know he played there, but I found that last night. This is how researched we are here at Spaghetti and Baseball. He's also the host of the #1 rated cooking show on social media by a former left-handed Major League pitcher, a Hall of Famer, a legend in my book, and all of yours. The one and only.
Hey, Jenny.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Thanks for the introduction, Keith. I didn't know half those stats either. I have to use them in my next arbitration hearing.
Yeah, did you know that? Like, those are good stats, though, right?
Those are real good stats. Those 11 errors weren't my fault, but there was a second baseman who used to drop the balls on a double play balls and stuff like that. So,
did you ever judge him for being such a poor defender compared to you, or
I didn't have the foresight to look into that like you did. Like him being a pitcher, me being a position player, I was like, oh yeah, we can't compare anything, but there it is.
There you go. Surprise, surprise. Leave it to season.
You know, like numbers are real. You can't change them. They're there forever. That's it.
but you know why he's only made 11 errors and 1,000 innings, whatever. How many errors he ever made? 12 errors.
The ice cream system.
Hit him thousands and thousands of ground balls in spring training on the back fields. Every day, a bucket of balls, 2 buckets of balls. And we started out when he was a kid that if he made 10 errors, 10 balls got by him, he would get no ice cream that night. And he was diving all over the place, everything. We got it down from 10 all the way down to 1. And
Nice.
finally, he didn't make any errors at all after 2 buckets of balls. So that's why he's only made 11 errors in 1,000 innings.
You can motivate Italian sons with ice cream.
Oh, yeah. Friendly's root beer floats. That's what it was.
Right.
Yeah. In Port St. Lucie.
One of my favorite places on earth, Port St. Lucie, Florida.
It beats Lakeland, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I tell you what, I got spoiled when I got to go to that first Arizona spring training when I was with the Indians, and I was like, man, this is so easy. We don't have to travel anywhere. I feel bad for everybody that's been on in the grapefruit league their whole career.
Yeah, I've never trained in Arizona. I went to visit JJ when he was with the White Sox in Arizona. I thought it was great. I mean, the facilities and the travel time, like you said.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. I never made bus rides in the Florida State League because I used to take the pitching coach used to take care of me. But those bus rides are a little shorter in Arizona than Florida.
Well, speaking of that, what was your routine? Like after you got established, a couple All-Star games, whatever, would you pitch the early innings in spring training or would you try to?
Yeah, I always like to pitch early in the game because I'll be facing the big league guys, the big league hitters who are going to be on the active roster. Usually late in the game, you have a lot of the non-roster players, the 40-man roster guys, and it's hard to set those guys up because they're such free swingers. But I always like to pitch right after the starter, or even maybe start a game and then let the starter come in afterwards. So usually the pitching coach would work it out with me and the starters or whatever bullpen guy. Most of the bullpen guys like to pitch early in the game rather than late.
So, JJ, I'm going to go to you first, and Natalie's going to just jump in whenever.
Yeah, I'll jump in.
We have no rhyme or reason order the show. We're just finding our flow here. So the first question I have for you, and I have an answer to this myself, but why not pitching? You were predominantly a middle infielder, right? If I had to
Shortstop, second baseman.
Yeah, I do have a couple pro innings though on some extra innings or blowout games. But I pitched all through high school too, and my dad and I really enjoyed partnering together for that. I mean, I had probably the best pitching coach I could ever have in the same house as me, and I had a pretty successful pitching career when I played for Poly Prep. I had more fun being a position player and being able to get in there every day. And a part of me still wanted to pitch in college because I liked being involved with every single pitch of the game and having you're competing every time you throw the ball, but just being a two-way player is really hard. And, nice photo.
He's more handsome than James Franco, for sure.
Hey, he has an uncle named James Franco. Remember that?
Well,
Yeah, that's right. And so yeah, I think I just had more fun being a position player, and I still hold true to that. I think
there's no doubt about it. And I'll tell you how this happened for me. My dad was a left-handed pitcher, pitched in Italy for 8 or 9 years. So I'm about 5 years old, and it's probably like the earliest recall I have in my life. But I remember it like it was yesterday. My dad was good. He was, not John Franco good, but he was a good pitcher, left-hander, 85, 86, had a nice breaking ball. Had a nice career in Italy. And he asked me when I was 5, he said, "So do you want to be a position player or do you want to be a pitcher?" I said, "Well, Dad, I'm 5. I know everything. I want to be a position player because in the American League, pitchers don't get to hit." So, I was already convinced when I was 5 that I needed to hit when I was in the big leagues. So I said no to pitching. So he took that information from a 5-year-old and was like, "No, I'm not going to teach you anything about pitching." I was like, so I get to Little League, and now, people need me to throw because I'm throwing hard. I'm drilling guys in the back. I'm throwing it off the backstop. And everybody's like, "Ooh, how come your kid can't pitch at all?" And I said, "He won't teach me. What do you want me to do? It's not my fault, At least you figured it out enough to do it in high school."
Exactly.
Yeah. I was one of those kids. I used to draw chalk on our driveway wall and have a box and just drill it all day. So my velocity didn't never made it into 90s. I came close, but I always knew where the ball was going, and that helps in the infield too.
Well, clearly, because you never made errors playing real positions. So clearly, he knew where it was going.
You wanted that ice cream, that's why.
Yeah.
Ice cream later.
Just keep bringing that up and pumping my tires throughout the show.
Absolutely.
The more people have accomplished, the more I'm going to try to knock them down to my level, where I'm like, okay, now I feel better.
All right, Chris. Payback. Payback.
It's like playing with the handicap right now. I'm a high handicap player.
So, JJ, when did you realize that your dad was John Franco?
Yeah, I think I had a good understanding at a young age. We were very involved with my dad's career since he was playing for the Mets and we lived in New York.
Yeah.
So, I attended every single opening day with my mom and my older sister. Those were like holidays in our family. So that was always fun. And then right around 3rd grade was when my dad's big league career and my life kind of started to overlap because he started to bring me to the ballpark. He figured I was mature enough to hang around the locker room and run around the outfield with a baggy Franco jersey on and Shaq balls. So earliest, I can't recall the earliest time I remember it. It just always was there. I think I always knew and understood it. And then 3rd grade and on is when it became just a reality and understanding that this is even bigger of a deal, more special of a deal than I'd previously known.
Absolutely. So your dad was a Met, you get that call in 2010 and you're drafted by the Mets. How was that reaction for you guys?
I was very excited. When I got to high school, I think like most baseball players, they start to realize that they're pretty good at it and have a chance to play in college and want to play pro. So when I got drafted by the Mets out of high school, it was really cool that it happened to my dad's team, and we as a family have a long history of being Met fans. So for me, it kind of felt like a family destiny thing, and rooting for them my whole life and seeing them their 06 season almost making it to the World Series. I've always been a passionate Mets fan, so that was fun to kind of have them open their arms to me again, but not as only my dad's son, but now as my own individual.
And absolutely,
that was a awesome accomplishment, and I was grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. But ultimately, you chose to go to school, Brown University. How difficult was that trying to figure out if you were gonna.
We knew right away.
Head over there.
Yeah, I mean, we're baseball players, and we know how to be like semi-realistic about things, and having the chance to like get an Ivy League degree when compared to like riding the bus and not bringing in like a big paycheck is like the weight was heavily on the Ivy League side. So
I need Dad's opinion on all this. He's sitting there quietly. I need to see what it was like from his side now.
Yeah, here you go.
We were very thrilled that he got drafted by the Mets, but we knew all along that he was going to attend college, no matter whether it was Brown or Princeton or Cornell. He was going to get that education first before being a professional player, because of the fact of what I've seen in the minor leagues, how that goes. Kids out of high school and kids out of college that come in and they play 2 or 3 years, especially kids out of high school, they play 2 or 3 years and then they get released, and then they want to go back to college, and then they say they want to go back to college and they don't go to college. So he had an opportunity to go to a great school, get a great education, and that's what we as a family decided.
Got it.
What an awful list of schools you just named. Princeton, Cornell. You're going to go to grad school at Columbia. Like, I mean, I definitely feel dumber being on this conversation.
I always say he has his mother's brains and my athleticism.
Whoa. Time out. You're a pitcher. Pitchers aren't athletes. Let's go.
Best athletes on the team are pitchers. Remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's funny. As I was going through like the stats to like name stuff off, one of my big things I think moving forward, and I couldn't find this, which was the problem. So like one of the our employees with our company was like, why don't you do this instead of like just naming off random stats? Why don't you just name off how many triple plays they turned in their career? And I couldn't find if you actually turned a triple play, John. So random stupid stat, but did you ever turn a triple play just out of curiosity?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Never.
I never had that many guys on base to turn a triple play.
The problem is I can't say anything to that because it's true. Like, I mean, I'm looking for numbers.
My dad's routine as a closer was usually like let 1 or 2 guys on, make it interesting. He's a showman at heart, and like baseball's entertainment. So you wanted to keep the fans on the edge of their seats. Like he had a plan the whole time. I know it's hard to believe, but that's what his plan was.
I had it under control every time. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Exactly. There was one stat that I saw that you seldom yielded a home run. It was 1 every 15 innings. So that was something I saw, in 7 strikeouts per 9.
Yeah.
So.
And that's I give up a few here and there to some guy. Tim Wallach hit a home run off of me at Shea Stadium. That's probably still going and landed in LaGuardia. So that was probably my furthest home run that I ever give up. But I was proud of that one.
My dad was kind enough to pass the low frequency home run rate onto me, but being a position player, that wasn't as helpful in my career.
You have more career homers than him as a player, though, so you'll always have that. Hey, and another good stat that I found, that in 45 innings, opposing pitchers batted only 194 against you in your career with no homers. So you had that going for you. You never gave up a homer to a pitcher, which is nice.
No, I hardly ever faced them. I think that stat was probably earlier in my career when I was in Cincinnati as a middle reliever. But when I usually came into the game from probably 1986 to 2000 and whatever, I never faced a pitcher. It was always a right-handed pinch hitter like yourself to go off the bench and face me.
That's how I remember you. I mean, I got to watch you growing up, and as much as I hated New York teams being from Massachusetts, obviously it was really cool to get to watch you play. And then in 2006, I got to meet you for the first time at the WBC down in Lakeland, the greatest town in the Florida State League. We got to sit kind of at Tiger Town and chat. What was it like for you to make that transition from playing and then getting to coach, especially to do Team Italy at the first?
Well, it's funny because when I had gotten released by the Astros like July 3rd, right before 4th of July, and I came home and was talking to my agent and my family, and I said, I'm going to give it until July 31st. If no one picks me up or interested, then I'm going to just call it a career. And I had some interest from the Yankees and the Cardinals at the time. And I remember they wanted me to go down to AAA to pitch. And I didn't want to go back down to the minor leagues. And I felt that the longer I waited, the less I would be on the top of my game, and it wouldn't be fair to the team that signed me. So I decided to retire. And a couple of days later, we jumped on a plane and we went to Italy. And while I was in Italy, I got a phone call from Matt Galante saying that he was going to be the manager of the Italian team. And he wanted to know if I'd be the pitching coach. And I say how ironic it is. I'm in this little town, my wife's family's town called Caggiano, and I'm looking over the vineyards on the phone with him, and he asked me if I wanted to be the coach of the Italian team. And I said, of course, that would be great. And I loved it. The transition wasn't very, very hard. I thought I enjoyed it. I still do enjoy it. I think I would be a great pitching coach, a great manager. I have a lot to offer. So I had a good time doing it. I wish we would have won a couple of more games, but we were in a tough bracket, as you know. I think we beat Australia, but then we lost to Dominican and Venezuela, those two stacked teams. But as the years go on at the WBC, the Italian teams are getting better and better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
there he is.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of being on the one Italian team that advanced around, and obviously like the heritage. And I know you guys obviously with your involvement with IABF and how many times you've been over there to do things. It means a lot to us, and that's kind of why I think we're all here right now doing this show together.
I remember throwing batting practice, and they threw me off the batting practice mound because I was throwing too many sinkers and breaking too many bats. So that was it. I don't want to put anybody in slump.
Still trying to get people out. You and Bob Stanley are the two pitchers that I've had that I really felt like during BP were actually trying to get me out and would get mad when I'd hit the barrel. I was like, I'd watch Steamer was like, he'd get really upset. You have like this more like happy-go-lucky, like in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I'm gonna break your bat next time, kid, but like don't worry about it.
If you were there staring at you, those home runs or those long fly balls, I kept that in the back of my mind. I used to throw a lot of BP to JJ, and my ball used to go all over the place, cutters here and there, in and out on him. So a couple of times he used to get upset at me, but my ball moved so much I didn't know which way it was going.
Yeah.
You had to go into BP like it was a battle, pretty much.
That's the problem with being the son of a left-handed pitcher. I know about that. My dad had every excuse in the book. He couldn't throw without a catcher. He had to throw really hard. He felt like he needed to flip a breaking ball in to get himself right every now and then. And I was like,
what
are we doing here? Are you trying to get me better? Or are you trying to make yourself feel better? And to this day, I swear to you, like I'm technically still an active player if there is baseball and I don't even know what planet we're on anymore. We're in the twilight zone. But my dad is 70 this year. We did Intentional Talk in 2015. And he came on the show, and he literally was like, I tell him all the time, give me a month to get ready, and I'll give you the most comfortable 0 for 4 you'd ever had in your life. And I don't know if this happened to you, JJ, but it happened to me. I was like, Dad, start your month whenever you want, and let's go. Does he do that to you or no?
Not so much, but when like the year after he retired, he took over and coached my travel ball team. I was about 14, and he gave everyone an at bat against him. And I think I was always an attack hitter. So our first fastball I saw, I just hopped on it and I snuck a ball up the middle. So like if you want, if you're gonna keep track of the numbers that are there forever and you can't say anything about it,
my son had to take care of him.
Yeah.
So you're a better defender, way better defender. And you're hitting 1,000 off him. It's basically what you just told me.
There should be a little plaque in the Mets Hall of Fame next to him, I guess, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, highest batting average against me. Absolutely.
This question's kind of obviously it's going to start with John, and then JJ, you can follow up, and I'm sure there'll be kind of a lead-in. John, how did baseball become your thing? Was it in your family? Like, how did you pick up baseball? How did you become so passionate about it? And kind of when did you want to
I have an older brother who's 5 years older than I am, and my dad, he was involved with the PAL, Police Athletic League, and my brother played in the PAL, and then I used to just be that little brother tailing along, and Once I became at 5 years old, you could play rookie league, whatever it was. And I started from 5 years old and just tagging along. I grew up in a housing projects where all my buddies were about the same age. And we just played baseball, whatever the season was, football, basketball, hockey, roller derby. We did everything. And it just progressed more and more. My father was involved, like I said, the PAL. Then I went to Shorefront Little League and then Ty Cobb's, Gil Hodges. And each year I just progressed and progressed. I started playing as a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old against 11-year-olds. So I always played up for my age. I was a left-handed shortstop, so that's where JJ got his good hands from. And it just, took off from there. As in high school, it was pretty easy. During high school, I'd go out and pitch, strike out 14, 15 guys, and an hour later, I'll be playing stickball for 2 hours, throwing a ball against the wall. So there was no pitch counts and stuff like that. And that's how I built up my arm strength. But I was always playing some type of sports, but baseball was my love. My brother, who I owe a lot to, I played catch with him. My dad taught me the famous drop pitch. He used to instead of saying a overhand curveball, it was the drop pitch, So I used to throw that a little bit in high school, but in high school, it was fairly easy. And then I got a scholarship to St. John's. And I think I probably had one of my best pitching coaches at St. John's, and a guy named Howie Gershberg. He was a pitching coach, and then he went on to the Angel organization to be a pitching coach, pitching instructor in the minor leagues for them. I'm going to brag a little. I'm the only freshman to throw 2 no-hitters in the history of St. John's, and
Yes.
three total altogether at the school history. So I don't know if you saw that in your.
I should have found it.
You can put that in that little bun on your head. And
Yeah, what do you got on this thing? I'm trying to go for a ninja look.
You talked about Tokyo Dome. That's why I was wondering if you put that up there.
I'm trying to go with a different hairstyle every show that we do. I had the headband on one time. I put the product in, and if I took this thing out right now, because I'm in Texas, the heat and the humidity, my hair would go like this. Yeah. Like I should have sent Mike the picture. So.
I just got a haircut today. For 3 months, I've been dying to get a haircut. I finally got one today.
Quarantine's got all of us.
It really has. It really.
Getting back to your question, listen, I love the game of baseball. Everything I have today is because of the game of baseball. I had a dad who was not that rah-rah dad. My dad used to stay on the side away from everybody, and everybody used to talk to him, and he used to say, I let my son do the talking between the line. He was a quiet guy, very strong man, but he was one of those guys that if you had a bad game, he talked to you and give you a lollipop rather than yelling at you. And we talk about it and try to learn from those mistakes. And that's what I try to do sometimes with JJ growing up. With my competitiveness sometimes would get the best of me. And he and I butted heads a couple of times.
Yeah, Chris, the pitcher position player mentality is so different. Like, I treated things in 10 at-bats at a time. And if I sprung like an 0 for 3 or an 0 for 4 back to back, I would get a text from like 0 for 7 last 2 games. What's going on? And I'm like, yeah, I'm 10 for my last 18. Like, I think we're doing okay. He's like, get rid of
hit every at bat. That.
I completely know the feeling, and I was wondering as you were talking about how your dad was with you. So for me, it was a little bit the opposite. My grandfather was a military man, fought in World War II, and my dad would, he'd strike out 14 or 15 in a high school game, and he'd come home and be like, how'd you do? He said, I threw a shutout, struck out 14, and he'd see the box score the next day. It says you walked 3. Like, why'd you walk 3? And so I thought maybe my dad would get the lollipop thing. Like, I thought he would be the ice cream lollipop guy, but he wasn't. There were points in time when I would wake up, I would have like these motivational letters after like 3 the day before, like, you got to pick it up. And I'm like, what? This is how bad it got for me. And I swear to God, I can't make this up. I have 2 stories, and I'm going to try to be brief. But right before I got called up to the big leagues for the first time, I was hitting 372 in AAA with 12 homers on May 22nd. So that's like a pretty good year, right? I go 0 for 4 at Lehigh Valley, and my dad sends me a text message, said, where were you tonight? You were non-existent. Those at-bats were garbage. And I'm like, really? I called my mom, and this is when I learned my lesson. I said, Mom, tell Dad he's on a 3-day suspension. I started suspending him for 3 days at a time. So he had to apologize if he wanted to talk to me in that 3-day stretch. And the second one, which is even worse, it's game 4 of the American League Championship Series. Now, keep in mind, I just had a really nice year. I hit 320 in the big leagues. Like, I'm, made a name for myself. And it's after game 4, and I'm 0 for 3. And he's waiting in the family room, and he's like shaking his head. He's like doing that face. And we walked the whole time walking down the street. He wouldn't say anything as I'm talking about how we're going to figure out how to win. And he goes, I know what you all need to stop doing. Stop trying to hit the ball out of the park. Jeez, what are we doing? Why are you trying to pull the ball, grounding out? And I'm like, that's what we're talking about right now. I'm in the ALCS, man. I feel your pain, bro. Like, I'm with you.
Yeah, just different mentalities.
Yeah.
I love it. Speaking of that that relationship, I love this. One thing I loved about, your relationship with your dad, who constantly encouraged you and your brother to play baseball, that you honored him by wearing an orange shirt under your jersey for the New York City Department of Sanitation. So I thought that was beautiful that I read. So
yeah, I wore that same shirt for almost. He passed away in October of '87. So I wore that shirt, the same shirt, until I retired. And that shirt had holes in it, and they had clubhouse guys sewing it. They were missing for a couple of hours. We had to find it, but I still have it packed away in one of the garages. So it's that's the way that I honored my dad, because of this. He used to make his sacrifices driving me to ball games. Never liked to fly. In the minor leagues, he drove to San Antonio. He was driving to San Antonio. He tried to drive to Omaha, Nebraska during the College World Series, but his car broke down on the way there, so he had to turn around and come home. So a little thing like that meant a lot to me.
Oh, absolutely. And especially when you got honored and inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame, and all the bagpipers wore the orange shirts as well with the name on it. So I thought that was a beautiful tribute. Yeah,
it was nice. They did a nice job. We have a special feeling towards the city workers here. Here in New York City. So whatever we can do as a player to help them out, that's what we try to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
That's super cool. So, I mean, direct lead in, like, obviously being from Brooklyn, growing up in New York, and I'm sure you've answered this 1,000 times, Johnny, I've never heard it directly, but to be a New York Met must have meant the world to you, I assume.
Yeah, I grew up a Met fan. So, the '69 team, Tug McGraw is one of my favorite players, along with Tom Seaver, Jerry Kuzman. I mean, I could probably name the whole team for you right now. One of the big thrills that I got is when I did get traded to the Mets in spring training. Tom Seaver would come and talk about pitching, along with Sandy Koufax would come and talk about pitching. He's good friends with Mr. Wilpon. So those were some of my highlights. Got to meet Tug McGraw a couple times when he was the announcer in Philadelphia, and then back to New York when they honored him. So growing up as a Met fan, it was one of my childhood dreams to play for that team. When I was at Cincinnati, we had 3 or 4 guys on the Reds who were from Cincinnati. Barry Locke and Paul O'Neill, Buddy Bell. Those guys played for Cincinnati Reds and lived there. So I always wanted the opportunity to come home and play for the team that I grew up watching and rooting for.
Yeah, I read a quote that said in '89, when you got the call, that when I heard the news, I felt like my head went through the ceiling.
Yeah. It's funny because that whole winter they were talking about some articles about me maybe getting traded to the Yankees. And I remember that the general manager for the Reds had called me up and had asked me that they wanted to give me a 3-year extension and what were the numbers. And I really couldn't, I said, I haven't talked to my agent. Let me talk to my agent. And then he called me back and said, Lou Piniella was the manager, and he wanted to meet you in the mall in New Jersey to have lunch. And I said, sure, of course. And then 3 days later, with a winter meetings, and I got a phone call and said, you've been traded to New York. And I said, okay. So I just thought it was the Yankees at the time. But then when Joe McIlvaine, who was the GM for the Mets, called me right away, I knew it was the Mets. And I was very, very happy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's good stuff. Follow up, this is kind of for both of you. Obviously, we're all Paisans here, and the IABF means a lot to us, and obviously being Italian means a lot to us. Tell us a little bit, and JJ, you can go first. Johnny, tell us a little bit about what your Italian heritage means to you, and how the IABF has become part of you and Dad's life.
For sure. My Italian heritage, I think, what it means for me just starts with my family. both my mom and my dad's side are of Italian descent, and my mom's side is on the newer generation side for America. So my mom's a first generation American, and yeah, that's a photo with my grandma and grandpa, my mom's parents, and my sisters. So having Italian heritage to me, if I had to like just spit out words, it means having asparagus and sopressata and Cascaval cheese like brought over in suitcases from my aunts and uncles and my grandparents when they would go to Italy. It means when my grandparents took me for the weekend at their house in Brooklyn, watching my grandma and her sister crush tomatoes from their backyard to make tomato sauce for the winter and to share with the rest of the family. It means Sunday dinners, and it means a lot of love in the family. And I think when my dad retired and he was able to kind of like tap back into his Italian heritage side by coaching the Italian team for the WBC, it was like a nice culminating moment after his career ended. And, it's something that as a family, we've always been in close touch with, and being able for my dad to be involved with it professionally, felt great to us. And I know my grandpa, my mom's dad, was so happy when my dad was coaching the Italian baseball team. And I remember my dad bringing back college shirts and hats, and he would wear it all the time. So just a lot of love and good memories associated with our Italian heritage. And I'm happy to continue sharing with my family.
Well, Johnny, you got more to add to that, or that was
he said it all, but it's a lot of pride. Italians, we have a lot of pride, and one of the things that I love about being an Italian is that we're very prideful people. We love to eat. We love our culture. When I retired, I'd never been to Italy, and I got a chance to go to Italy and understand a little bit more why we are the way we are, and getting to see my wife's family all in Italy, that the way they grew up, the way they live over there, the way they eat. It was just a great experience. And the culture, the travel, the beautiful art, and the beautiful towns that we went to. It was just great, and just so proud to be an Italian and to represent Team Italy also as a pitching coach meant a lot to me, and I just enjoy every moment of it. And that's why I enjoy cooking.
Absolutely. And back to traveling to Italy, we got a question from Mark Cardillo. What's your favorite area in Italy?
Mark Cardillo.
I think you know him.
Yeah, Mark was with us when we went to Italy to do those clinics a couple of years ago. So he's a legend in Italy. They love him in Italy, that's for sure. But I think my favorite, we went to Sicily this year. I thought Sicily was beautiful. We went to Taormina. It was really, really nice. I had a good time there. I think Positano, Ravello along the Amalfi Coast was really nice. So, there's so many beautiful areas in Italy. One is better than the other. So, to me, when I used to go to these places, I thought, wow, I couldn't believe. I went to Milan. My wife has been to Italy a number of times as a child, and she was more or less showing me around and show me the places to go to with her, and show me, which is where, what town in Milan, and then we went here and there, and just to see the towns, every town that we went to back then. And even this summer, JJ was with us when we went to Sicily we were in Sicily for 3 weeks, and we had a great time.
That is amazing.
JJ, what's your spot? Where's if you had to pick one?
Yeah, I think I have two. One of the more special places to go to when we visit Italy as a family is our hometown on my mom's side, Caggiano, just because we get to reconnect with our family. And we've been lucky to head over there with my grandparents a number of times too. And, just like you would be with your grandkids, if you left your hometown in Italy and they came back with you, they would be so excited to have you and want to show you everything. This is their home. So it's really fun when we make our way over there. This year we checked out Sicily for a little bit and Puglia for a while. And those were just two completely different regions, and it was fun to discover both of them. And my favorite part of our trip this past year was three weeks of just driving all over Italy, was discovering that the food is different everywhere you go too, just like it is here in America. Yes, it is Italian food, but it's different from region to region, and that was really fun to discover. And yeah, I would love to do that again sometime. Maybe with me helping my dad out in a driving end a couple times, but he didn't let me drive. But
those roads were about that big. Those
You
roads.
don't want to drive in Italy. I had to try it. The first time I had to do it, I was 20 because I hadn't been.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh gosh,
oh man, it was
yeah.
scary. That's way worse than driving in New York.
Well, you have to just be aggressive like they are over there. You know, that's how I looked at it.
Where one in Rome comes from, right?
We made a couple of wrong turns here and there, but we survived. We did a pretty good job. We had a good time.
So you mentioned.
I've only been to Italy once, and it's just beautiful. And it's just like anything that you read in books, you see in movies, does not do it any justice. My dad jokes around that I'm culture with the small C. I like, the food, maybe the nightlife. And when I went out there, I was enamored with culture with the big C, the Vatican, El Duomo. So just absolutely. So hopefully maybe next year, the IABF, we all go as a trip together.
Well, when our show is number one on iTunes, on the iTunes downloads, we're gonna just do whatever. We're gonna shoot our show from Italy. We're gonna fly us back and forth.
We're gonna be on-site location in Italy.
Yeah. And you guys can be guests again, but you'll have, it'll be recorded live, so we'll have to fly you out.
The best part of the trip that we went with Mark Cardillo was like he was the mayor. He was like every town that we went to, he's a legend. He hit over 300 in Italy, the towns that he played in. He was a good instructor during the clinics. We had a really good time, Mark and myself doing the clinics, along with Joe. Everybody thought Joe was a pitcher. He was signing autographs, but I realized at the end that he wasn't. He was just the guy coming along, making sure everything was running well.
That's the thing. Joe looks like the boss wherever he goes. He's
exactly
like the capo. You mentioned you guys were over there doing the clinics, and I think it was 2018. Was that your first time going over to do a clinic with IABF, John?
Yeah. First time went over to do clinics over there. The clinics that we did, the kids love baseball. They're like sponges, but the facilities are kind of run down. Some of the areas that we went to, but it's a shame. We went to Nettuno, which was great. They had some nice stadiums over there. But when we were in Salerno, the town, the fields were just in bad shape. And Joe did a great job in sending a lot of equipment over. Him and Carmine, got together and they sent some equipment over there to help them out. But the playing conditions were really tough over there. But the kids love it. Our goal is trying to get a couple of those kids here to play in big time college and then maybe to the big leagues. We'll never know. But they have the talent. It's just that they don't have the resources to take it to that next level. When we tell them, Chris, we told them you have to work out every day. They said, "What do you mean work out every day? Really, 2 days, 3 days? You have to lift weights. What do you mean lift weights?" So once they get the culture and they understand the game a little bit more, they understand the sacrifices that they have to make.
Exactly, and that's our mission for the Italian American Baseball Foundation, is to develop these programs, have showcases and clinics. So people continue to watch us, support us, so we can help those kids in Italy and here, and to fulfill their dreams.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them drinking espresso and smoking cigarettes in the dugout. I was like, "Oh, wait a minute here."
That was the weirdest thing for me when I was a kid. When my dad ended up managing in San Marino when I was very little, first and second grade. And I didn't understand. I still didn't understand when you're a kid. You don't really realize that you play baseball every day. And we're going to play Friday and Saturday. And at the time, it was usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, at least Friday, Saturday. Now the pro league, the top league in Italy, is only playing 1 or 2 days a week. And it is. I agree with you 100%. There's a lot of talent. We have a lot of talented kids coming through the pipeline. The biggest thing I think that has to happen is we have to shift the paradigm of number one, we have to give them better leaders, I guess, and instructors. So the fact that guys like yourself can go over there and take part in events like that, and obviously for me, I played in the Olympic qualifier last year, which we hosted in Italy. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but there's so much potential, and I think it just needs a little kickstart and a little bit of polishing, maybe shape it in the right way, and we could be off to the races. And I think you could definitely see some big leaguers get popped out of there for sure. And
Absolutely.
College athletes, that's for sure. So, I have one more question, and then I'll let I know Natalie wants to talk about something, but
I do. No.
because I kind of want to talk about it too, but because it's my favorite thing in the show. But we've been through this weird time in the U.S. and the quarantine and this and that, COVID and all that stuff, and it looks like baseball's coming back. Still not sure, different state by state. Both you guys, do you have any advice for young players, any young players that might be watching, of how to handle a situation like this? I'm sure you've been asked stuff like this. Like I've been asked a ton, and I don't really know if I have an answer. I try my best, but I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll go first. For young players that are like missing out on their summer ball experience, like best advice I can give them is like try to simulate a season as much as possible. I know I have a lot of buddies of mine that are professionals. They're in the minors that are going through the same exact thing. Like their season is canceled. So one of my friends who lives up in Connecticut, who doesn't have a season this year, he's a bullpen pitcher and he's keeping a bullpen routine for the summer. Every third day or so, maybe a couple back-to-back days, just so his arm and his mind stays in shape and tries to stay competitive. Other than that, I think that I can relate what's happening now to younger kids to when I was hurt. I was hurt for 15 months during my minor league career. And so I felt like those 15 months were really big mentally for me because I had to take a step back. I couldn't practice. I couldn't play. So the next best option was to watch the big leaguers play and try to learn what the big leaguers do well. And then after my rehab and I was able to play again, like on the back end of it, I took my goals that I set from watching the big leaguers play and I tried to accomplish them. I think that helped me like take a step forward once I became fully healthy. So if it's only 60 games, watch them if you're a kid, and take notes, take mental notes, and try to accomplish and do what they do well.
My advice to the young guys out there, the young kids, who are missing their sandlot and little league experience, is just try to, play catch every day with your dad or your mom or your sister or your buddy. If you have a backyard, put up a little hidden tee, keep your swing, keep going. Just try to stay ready. This pandemic is something that we have no control over. We don't know when it's a good time to get back to playing baseball, especially in the little leaguers and college and high school kids. But just stay ready and just try to enjoy yourself, your time with your family. Sooner or later, they're going to give the okay to play the little league games and the college games down the road. And like JJ said, once the big leaguers get back on the field, just try to watch what they do. Try to listen to how they stayed ready. I know most of the big league guys. I'm sure Chris, and JJ, that they probably all have been hidden somewhere. They've all been throwing aside sessions, trying to stay as ready as you can. It doesn't simulate the game action, but if you stay ready and once spring training starts on the 1st, they'll be, ready to get going and kick it into gear real quick because spring training is going to be short. It's going to be a short season. So you got to make sure that you're at the top of your game right away. You can't have a long losing streak. So otherwise the 60 games is going to go real fast.
Sprint to the finish this year for the first time.
Yeah.
And some of the new rules that they're putting in there, I got to scratch my head on those things.
Well, no, you're not allowed to scratch your head anymore. You're not allowed to touch your face at all.
That's right. Yeah,
you got to bring your own rosin bag, tar rags.
This extra inning thing with a guy on second base. That's the what's that? The Little League. I forgot what they call it.
California rule.
California rule. Yeah.
California rule.
I don't want to spend any more time at the ballpark. The guy's only been there 7 or 8 hours, so another half hour, 45 minutes means a lot.
All right. So before we get to what I really want to talk about, I do have a question for my brother-in-law, Joe Ascoli. He wants you to describe the team and the game, the 9/11 game. So when we came back 10 days later, what were the emotions going through? I mean, just everything, house, everything.
Well, I could tell you that when 9/11 did happen, we were in Pittsburgh playing the Pirates, and it just so happened we were supposed to have a union meeting that morning with Don Fear, who was our union leader, was in Pittsburgh, and I was one of the union reps, the player reps, and he called my room and he said, I have to fly back to New York. A plane crashed into the World Trade Center. So not thinking, I thought at the time it was probably a small plane.
Right.
And then I called home and I was on the phone with my wife and realizing that it was a big plane. And then another plane hit, and then we knew something was up. And then obviously the plane that went down outside of Pittsburgh, now we really started getting concerned. Our travel secretary, Charlie Samuels at the time, called everybody's room, told us to pack right away because we were right next to a federal building. And they weren't sure if they were trying to hit all the federal buildings or all the government stuff. So we packed our bags and we wound up going to a Marriott or a Sheraton up in the mountains in Pennsylvania for 3 days. Once we were there, we were just stuck there and watching the news like everyone else, not knowing when we were going to be able to come home. Stayed in contact with your family, making sure everybody was fine. Obviously, we knew JJ and I and my wife. We knew some friends of ours who were in the towers that went down. One of the guys was a Little League coach, JJ. He was a fireman. But once we got the okay to come home, the bus ride, we had to take a bus ride home, and the bus ride was, not loud but normal stuff. But once we got onto the George Washington Bridge, and we could see the lights and the smoke from the ground zero, the guys, I think it was Todd Zeal, said, "Hey guys, check it out." The guys on the left side of the bus came over to the right side of the bus, and we just stared at that scene and the lights and the smoke. And you didn't hear a pin drop from the George Washington Bridge to Shea Stadium. Once we got to the stadium, we weren't sure when we were going to play again. Then, obviously, the president and the Mayor Giuliani said, let's get back to normalcy. Let's get back to playing. And then going to the ballpark that particular day was totally different because when you pull into the players' lot, you would just see the regular security guard. But this particular times, obviously, we had the bomb-sniffing dogs and police with machine guns and checking out the car, sniffing the car. As you go into the stadium, there were police all over the place, snipers on the sharpshooters on top of the scoreboard, on top of the stadium lights. Going into the locker room, as we were getting dressed, they had another bomb-sniffing dog come in and sniff everybody's lockers. It was amazing how these dogs, because one of the police officers had like a stick of dynamite, whatever, a training stick for the dogs, and he hid it underneath Turk Wendel's locker while the dog was outside. And this dog came in and went around and he sat down right near Turk's locker to find where he sniffed that gunpowder or whatever it was. But once we got there, the batting practice was just batting practice. Music was on, but it wasn't on very loud. And then the ceremonies before the game, we lined up the bagpipes, so it was very sad. But the big thing about that was when Bobby Cox and Bobby Valentine shook hands at home plate, all the players followed their lead, and we all shook hands in the middle of the diamond. The Braves were a thorn on our sides, and for us to get to the playoffs, we always had to go through Atlanta. And to hug and shake hands with them, to show the country that we were united as one, meant a lot. And as the game progressed, Jason Marquis was one of the starting pitchers. He was from Staten Island, New York. I got in the game, and Steve Carsey was in the game. He's also from New York. So we had 3 New Yorkers part of that game. But when Mike hit that home run against Steve Carsey, it kind of uplifted the crowd, because the crowd was like a little subdued the whole game. It was quiet, but it wasn't. But as you turn around and you see people jumping up, hugging each other, screaming USA, throwing beers in the air, waving the flags, even the dugout. I mean, I get chills talking about it now. I think it uplifted the city and uplifted the fans in the stadium just for, the 2-3 hours that we put a Band-Aid on that injury to the down at the World Trade Center meant a lot to the city. It meant a lot to the organization. As a team, we did a lot. Going to ground zero, thanking the firemen, policemen, emergency service workers. We wore the hats of all the police, firemen. And I remember when we were in Pittsburgh and the commissioner's office had told us that we weren't allowed to wear the hats because we wore it for the game, the 9/11 game. And they said that's the only game we could wear it. We all said, no, we're going to wear this the rest of the season. And Todd Zeal, who was our player rep at the time, along with me, said to the commissioner's office, they said they were going to fine us every day that we wore the hats. So we decided to say, okay, fine us. And our owner, Fred Wilpon, went to bat for us, talked to the commissioner, and we wind up wearing those hats the rest of the season to represent all the police, firemen, emergency service workers. So it meant a lot for us as an organization. It was a great team effort. Bobby Valentine was a great leader. If you ever want someone in a foxhole, that's the guy right there. He was. We were unloading tractor trailers with water and supplies and food, whatever we could think of. Even after our workouts, we flew to Pittsburgh to resume the season after we played at home. And Bobby stood there. We weren't sure if he was going to make it back to Pittsburgh for that game, but he was. He did come back, and it was just a great team effort. The whole organization. Shea Stadium was the staging area, and it was a great feeling that we, no matter what we did, we try to help out as best we can. If you would actually go down there to help pick up the rocks or the steel, every guy probably would have done it.
Incredible. I mean, I know I get goosebumps, like chills, just listening to that. So thank you for sharing that. Carlos said New York City needed that.
Yeah.
The guy that makes jokes during the show, and I don't even want to make a joke now because
well, you can make a joke now because you know what, we as a country and as a city came back even stronger, and I believe after this pandemic and that everything, we are going to come back even stronger. New Yorkers are tough, and the rest of the country has seen that, and we are the eyes upon us as we lead, everybody else follows us. So I think we'll be all right. We did all right after 9/11, and I think we'll be fine after this pandemic and when it's safe for everybody to get back to normal life.
Absolutely.
So, side note, completely shifting gears. Who's a better cook?
JJ, you want to answer that?
I think I'm more adventurous and he's got more experience.
Okay.
That's a good diplomatic response. I know that's not what you want to hear, Chris.
I think the podcast crew needs to go to the Franco house and test.
Well, that's exactly.
Logo,
Jack, we'll do a cooking show. We'll have DeCheco sponsor us, and we'll do it live at Carmine's.
Absolutely. Since I retired, I love to cook. When I played, my wife Rose cooked, and she's a great cook, and she always had a great meal waiting for me before I left for the ballpark. And since once I retired, I enjoyed cooking. Like JJ said, he's a little bit more adventurous. I'm a little bit more. My menu is. I have a menu, but I'm not adventurous as he is. In fact, he showed me a nice salmon dish a couple of weeks ago that I'm kind of stealing from him right now that I enjoy, and so we have fun doing it. When I was doing that stuff on Instagram and putting some disco music to the background and singing and dancing while we're playing, you got to try to make the best of the situation that we're in, and I got some good feedback from it, and I did a show with a couple of chefs, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy preparing and I enjoy cooking. I don't enjoy cleaning up. That's for sure.
It's all right. I'll clean up. So we're gonna have us announcing it right now. Spaghetti and Baseballs with John Franco and JJ. But speaking of cooking, and this is what I really want to talk about because it's going to lead us into rapid fire. I'm obsessed with this. Is it sauce or gravy?
Sauce.
Wait, sauce and
Sauce. Gravy is what you put on the mashed potatoes during Thanksgiving.
That's what we told Napoli and I at Posty last week.
I don't want to name names, but CC said it. So
I'm
disappointing.
naming names. Stop this nice guy stuff, JJ. You got to learn how to be direct, man. That's probably why you got into an Ivy League school.
Exactly.
Your words wisely. Yeah.
Oh my God. So can we kick off rapid fire with that?
Yeah, that was rapid fire number 1. Rapid fire's got a little bit different style. I have some interesting ones. They're not like make a choice. There's actually something you have to think about. So I know the Ivy League guy will be fine. St. John's a decent education, Johnny. I'll give you that. All right. Number 1. Well, number 2, technically. Day game or night game? Both of you.
Night game.
I like night games.
Okay, good. That's 1. Cannoli or tiramisu?
Cannoli.
Good. Both at the same time. All right. Sopranos or Jersey Shore?
Soprano.
All right.
That's a no-brainer.
That's
Yeah.
a no-brainer, yeah.
Respectable Italian would answer that. Okay. Favorite Italian meal, if like last meal type of thing. Go.
Pizza.
No, you're going to be more specific than that. You should just say pizza.
Oh, just more like a whole meal?
You got to go. You can't say
What
pizza.
type of pizza? What type of pizza?
Like, cooked by somebody with some margherita, you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I like a nice pasta dish.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just do. I would do a nice solid like margarita pizza, like
Okay.
nothing too quick,
Nothing
nothing
from
too
Carmine's in Brooklyn. That's
I was just going to say, if you don't say from Carmine's in Brooklyn, you're not as smart as I thought you were.
needed.
Carmine has the best rice balls you ever want to taste with the broccoli rabe sauce. It's really,
Oh my
really
God. Without a doubt. Okay. Speaking of meals, chicken parm.
I just had a chicken palm hero for dinner.
I had a chicken parm hero, but as a dish,
Yes, I like it.
It's good. The problem is it's good. So, like, this is rapid fire just breaking up into Italian talk. Chicken parm doesn't exist in Italy. You guys
That's right, it doesn't.
It
Yeah.
doesn't exist. But it's
That's an Italian American dish.
yeah.
I gotta admit this. I don't admit this often. My mom used to make cutlets in Italy all the time when I was growing up. I was the only Italian kid to ever put ketchup on his chicken cutlets. I got a lot of crap. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh, this is over.
I'm not supportive. I don't support bullying, but you probably deserved a little bit when that happened.
Yeah. Ketchup on chicken cutlets? No.
All right.
That's poor. How do you admit that in front of our millions of followers? How do you do that?
Because I'm the only one on the show that speaks Italian.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed in Carmine's no more.
No.
I'll tell you what, my mom's allowed to go to that restaurant whenever she wants, and my mom will make a big stink if I can't go. So
Mom just said it's not Italian.
I have one more. Favorite clubhouse snack, not peanut butter sandwich. Go.
Sunflower seeds.
That's an in-game thing.
That's an in-game thing.
Okay, so not peanut butter jelly.
I like the Oreos.
Or
Yeah, I'll go with like a cereal.
okay.
Cereal.
Okay, so I'm gonna. All right, smart guys can't think this much when we do rapid fire. That's like this was the worst rapid fire ever. I love you guys, and this was probably my favorite.
I gave you two answers.
I know this is my favorite show.
Answers.
We've been on the longest. We got the deepest, but our rapid fire sucked. It was so fire. I mean,
That's some bad questions.
you're right. I mean, maybe it was my fault. I'm just saying we did it together.
Together is right.
Anyway,
But as you know, in the clubhouse, there are so many snacks in there that there's just so many. It's just difficult to choose just one good one.
not anymore. The only thing you can eat now is like quinoa and like
Yeah, That's why there's so many injuries right now, because there's not enough fat on these guys.
I was born to play in the 80s. I shouldn't have been in the big leagues in the 2000s, like the 20s.
Oh, absolutely.
They started like a nutritionist. I'm like, bro, I went 0 for 4 and we lost. I'm gonna need a pizza, some buffalo chicken, and a soft serve ice cream. Comfort food, right?
Couple of beers to calm you down, and some good fatty food.
Comfort food. Like you can't just always eat healthy. And
we ate pretty good after the games at Shea Stadium. JJ could tell you that the food that we had was every night it was different. It was Italian, Mexican, sushi. We had some steak and lobster. It was really good.
So.
Nice. Was there one go-to place that you guys went to?
A restaurant, not at the ballpark, but here in the city, we like. I like to go to Il Molino, which is nice. But for sushi is Nobu. I love to go to Nobu. So I like those places. And obviously, for pizza, I go to Carmine's for pizza.
On Grand Avenue in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, that's right.
The guy started a cooking show. The restaurant is in his house. Like the parties at Napoli's, the restaurant's at Franco's. That's what we're going to go with from now on.
Yeah, that's good.
Guys, I have to thank you so much for coming on this show. Obviously, to me, an honor. JJ, my affinity for you has gone through the roof. It did before. We'll work on the rapid fire thing, but other than that, like, super impressive young man you are. I'm glad I got to know you, and we'll continue to through the IABF. Johnny, always a pleasure to talk to a legend in baseball. So the honor is mine. Believe me, I know nobody's ever honored to talk to me, so especially with this thing on my head. But thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us. It was a fun time.
Good.
Thanks for having us. We enjoy anything that we can do to help out the IBF. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, alla prossima, spaghetti and baseballs.
Arrivederci.
Take care, everybody.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.